Right then, everyone, welcome in to Coffee and Drums podcast. This is our first episode, so if you are joining us here, welcome. And get ready to talk some drums. We're all here. We've got Dan and Flewp. Do you guys want to give us a little intro about yourself? Dan, you want to go first, man?
Yeah, hi guys. You can't hear it, but there's so many air horns going on outside. Everyone's so excited. It's just like, murr, murr. My name's Dan, Dan Stone, Dan Drumstone on the internet's places. But I've been a drummer for over 20 years now, professionally for about 17, 18 years, taught for about 16. Just love the instrument. You know, I do it full time, and everything I have in this life has been because of this instrument. So I love it to death, and I'm really excited to see where all this goes and find out what you guys got going on every time we do it. And I'm excited. It'll be a good time.
Oh, it's gonna be great. And what about yourself, Flewp?
Yeah, my name is Flewp. Some people call me Alex, but most people on the internet call me Flewp. And I've actually never totally played drums in a totally professional, in a professional way. I've always usually had drums as my hobby and a passion project. And when I found Twitch, Twitch became my favorite way of sort of putting myself out there and playing the drums and showing my passion for things, everything drum related. So that's how I kind of got started with actually truly performing, besides, random gigs here and there. But yeah, started doing Twitch about 4 years ago, and just been jamming a few times a week since then, and it's been a lot of fun. So
Monster player.
Oh yeah, stop it.
Dude, like some of the stuff you pull out, I still watch streams after I've been practicing things. I'm like, how?
I say that about you two.
Well, and I mean, I guess about myself. So, Greg, or Mr. Greggles, spelt with one G in the middle, because everyone puts two G's, like the bakers we have in the UK. But yeah, I've been playing drums about 11 years or so, and I started Twitch. I've been doing a bit of session work before that, but Twitch was where sort of I could pull it in, and like you said, Dan, everything at the moment that I've had in my life has come from the drums, and I cannot wait to talk more about it because it's such a fantastic instrument. And I think there's so many people out there who love their particular instrument, be it guitar, etc. But I don't know, drums has this weird passion about it that no other instrument I've ever seen echo.
I feel that, man. Absolutely.
So
it's very primal, and whether I think it's because it's not like a harmonic instrument necessarily. Like it's very just tonal, and you feel it.
Roll.
It's like, yeah, you banged stuff when you were a kid, and I feel like I'm still banging stuff like when I was a kid. Like it's just the first, I don't know, I think hint of music that we all get, aside from, hearing someone sing to us as babies or a heartbeat, in the womb. But it's like from the get-go, it's the first thing we hear is like a rhythm of some sort. So it's just such a part of our lives, whether you play it or not. Percussion is everywhere.
So I wasn't the only person then that was like tapping on school desks when I was like in preschool with like random pencils and stuff, and always annoying my teacher. I'm glad I'm the only one.
I tried playing piano and cornet, smaller version of the trumpet beforehand, and the whole time I'd be trying to play piano and doing on the sustain pedal, my foot just be up and down, and I didn't realize at the time. I was like, I should have played the drums. And I remember when I first, because it was really weird actually, and I don't know whether you guys ever had this when you were younger. You don't really realize the drums are there if you're not playing the drums sometimes in music. Like before I was a drummer, I listened to music and I'd pull out maybe the piano parts or some other, tonal sides of things, but the drums were just there, the beat. And then when I remember in music, there was this kid having a drum lesson. I just saw him and I was like, wait, drums are a thing. I don't know whether you guys ever had that, but there was this sort of like epiphany of like this instrument that I was totally aware of, but popped into being, at which point I just became obsessed with it.
Yeah, I have had that same thing happen where when I was, really young, before I started actually pursuing drums, just songs would be on the radio and it would be music, but you wouldn't actually understand what's happening from a musical standpoint. It would just sound good and that was it. But when you started kind of digging into it, and then you listen back to these songs, and for me, it's like 90s pop. I always listen to the pop radio station and like, it sounded fine before, but when you're actually, understanding more of the production and music side of it, you start to listen to like all these classic songs that you've never, you're listening to it in a completely different way, and it makes everything super exciting again.
Yeah. I was little. My parents took me to a school talent show. I think we knew like one of the kids in it. I was really little, but I just remember there was this kid with like super long hair and like a tie-dye t-shirt, like a 90s tie-dye. I think he had like cargo shorts or something on. He played Wipeout. And I just remember being like,
yes, that was actually
that's it.
That was the first song that my drum teacher ever played, and my face absolutely melted too. It's like, oh, Wipeout, and I was just like, what? How is this physically possible? Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think every time as a drummer you see Wipeout, specifically Wipeout, that tom, as soon as the tom part comes in, you're like, I need to learn this. Why can't I play this yet? And you try and play it, and like, the accents are all wrong, and oh, it's brilliant. Well, speaking of playing then, so something that we're going to be talking about every podcast is what we've been working on as musicians, as drummers, and obviously with it being our jobs in part, and constantly being around the instrument, we always try and get better as players. So for me personally, when I hear what other people are practicing, it's brilliant to be able to add it to my sort of like practice list as well. So
this is geek mode. Enable geek mode now. Like
turn the keys at the same time. Nerd.
Yeah. Because everyone works on stuff. We all practice. I think one of the biggest things with musicians is how to practice, what to practice, what's going to make us good or better. And I think every musician struggles with it or changes up their practice like a billion times, it seems like. So it's always fun and fresh to find out what other people are working on, because it might trigger something in your own daily routines or make you pick up the instrument, when you aren't. So I love all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So Alex, what are you working on?
So, I was thinking about this because, we were kind of talking before the podcast started, and we were going to go into this section, and, it was actually a really good question. And I guess my short answer is right now I'm in sort of a maintenance mode. There's a lot of, craziness going on outside in the world. And I've been focusing on, sort of a lot of that stuff. But as far as drums are concerned, when life sort of gets really intense and, you don't have a ton of time to put into practicing, I kind of go into this maintenance mode. And it kind of is two separate things. So the first thing is I always still like to go back down to the basics and always making sure that your foundation stays strong. And at this point, like when you're not really learning a whole bunch of new things, I really like to practice your super basic foundational things, such as making sure all of your rudiments are in line, making sure that, and the reason for that is just to make sure you're always staying relaxed as you're playing, whether it's practicing paradiddles or singles or whatever, practicing it to a metronome, practicing it, just in a very relaxed fashion. Just make sure that you have your foundation in line so that you just, you maintain. And as far as learning new things, what I've been doing is for the, instead of learning a whole bunch of like maybe like a broad idea or, learning a new book worth of things. What I like to do now is I like to listen to random bits and pieces of different songs that I like and pick out different, chops that or different ideas that drummers are doing and sort of just kind of internalize them in my own way and sort of like instead of learning a whole new broad system of ideas because I don't have time to at this moment, you can still grow bits and pieces by just picking out ideas and going from there. So that's kind of what I've been working on now, just bits and pieces and, you'll hear more about that in a bit. But the main thing right now is making sure everything, it's maintenance mode, making sure that all of your foundation stays strong while you can.
Keeping it solid.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting talking about that because at the moment, in the situation I'm in, I only get to drum on my kit when I'm streaming or I'm giving a drum lesson. So actually being able to sit on the kit and practice something is I'm in the sort of same situation just because of my neighbors and various issues there. So when I'm actually practicing, I'm on my pad. So I've got a little bass pad and I've got my, the usual like 12-inch practice pad. And a lot of the stuff that I'm working on, like you say, is the same. It's the basics. And the other day I was listening to some playing that I'd recorded and realized that I was really, really rushing things. So I've been sticking on the metronome and just playing 4 to the floor every snare on 2 and just making sure I'm nailing that beat. And then as well with the paradiddles, something specific that I've been working on for a long time now is playing a paradiddle but being able to accent all the individual notes. So playing a bar of accenting 1, bar of accenting 2, bar of accenting, as in the physical sticking. And the interesting thing is when I'm there, I can play, obviously I can accent the first note of a paradiddle. Most drummers, learn that when you get the rudiment in front of you. The second,
what's an accent?
Well, that's where you hit harder.
I gotta write all this down.
But yeah, I find the accenting within the double at the end of the paradiddle really hard. So for me, I realized that when I was actually playing a lot of stuff over, say, the ride cymbal, ride bell accents, I was trying to do these accents, finding it really hard, but just this paradiddle exercise of learning to place those accents where I want has helped across the kit without me having to practice sort of like, as you were saying, Flewp, like taking a book's worth of stuff or really pushing things. It's more allowed me to go from brain to kit rather than having to do sort of like brain, learn, kit, if that makes sense. It's just informed output now, which is really weird.
I'm just trying to think of doing like that last stroke of like a paradiddle where you have that double but accenting on the upstroke. That is such an awkward thing to do. So a lot of respect.
You got to know this. Yeah, it's I use the Stone Killer Joe Morello thing where you do soft loud for a double to make the double sound really clean, and that's the only way I found to be able to do it. Sort of like that weird wrist flick. Let's half molar, half wrist, and
how I really got into that. There's a drummer, a fantastic. He was like the DCI snare champion. Like, I don't know. There's a joke like 25 years in a row. Like, he's amazing. His name's Rob Carson. Everyone should Google him if you're really into technique and building up like muscle groups and accents. And his whole thing when I studied with him was play really stiff, so like no wrists, and like physically with those taps, tap and then like physically pulling the stick up like with your upper hand muscles. I don't know what they are, but that really helped me a lot, like to really pick out the accents and doubles. Because we do rely, as a drum set player, from bounce and rebound. It is very important, but a lot of the control and accent control comes from like that muscle control, and sometimes you really got to take control of the stick. So like practicing it where you physically like that that second note of the diddle, like the inverted, man, it's hard. You do that like da 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 for, you push those tempos for even a minute, and you're just like, oh my god, like
It burns.
I can't. Yeah, it really hurts. So that's good you're working on it, man. That's definitely good stuff.
It's taking control of the stick. I never play ghost notes using the bounce of the drum at all. I stick every single ghost note, because unless it's something where it needs to be sort of like a press buzz, you know, where I'm trying to get an effect, I just don't feel in control if I'm using the bounce of the drum to actually achieve something. I find it really hard. I lose my confidence.
Yeah, I think it depends on, for me, I use the bounce like if it's a really open, like really soft ghost note, like really articulated, I'll definitely make sure I play the notes. But if it's just like a you know, like those, just like they're not really in time, but they're just like fluff.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Sure
like that effect is lovely.
Those diddles and stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to.
That's cool.
It's hard to make sure. It's definitely a balance for me as far as ghost notes are concerned. When you're trying to do, like let's say you're playing a funk groove and you're trying to fill in all the spaces with ghost notes and all that kind of stuff. When they need to be articulated like that, you know, it all depends on the context, on the way that you play the ghost note itself. So, you know, if it's supposed to be just to kind of fill in the groove, but you're playing multiple ghost notes at once, like for me, and I like, if I try to muscle through that over and over and over, I'm just going to get tired. So I have to use the bounce in those contexts, which makes ghost notes so difficult, because sometimes, like, you know, depending on how loud the actual ghost notes are, like what you're saying, Dan, if this really needs to come through in the groove versus if it's just literally almost being ambient noise, you know, you have to use a different technique to get them to, you know, articulate, especially when you're on an acoustic snare. It's those nuances right there that you can really defines your personality behind the kit when you hear those little details like that. So
yeah, a cool thing is, Greg, it's really hard for me too, but like taking like the accents and stuff, like on a paradiddle, or taking like 16th note triplets or something and moving the accents around, but turning the accents into doubles, like just a little diddle. So you'd have like, you know, and then putting the diddle on. Oh man, that'll open up your playing, you know, or putting flams in there. Like, oh,
flams.
I love it.
I recently mastered. I say mastered. That's the wrong way. So far to go with that, but I managed to open up my flam taps to go past sort of like 100 BPM, because I was just sticking everything, and I sort of like, I don't know what I did, but I was just playing with it, and I was like, and I sort of like threw my hands down trying to do it, and realized that the flam tap was more a
It's a double. It's a sloppy double.
It's the sloppy doubles. And I'm there going, no way. I've tried to be so precise for so long, and then just a sloppy double is exactly what I needed. And, you know, I've refined it now and I can play it, and I still need to work around it. But that breakthrough of just being able to, like you say, open up the playing, push it that one step further was, fantastic.
There is one thing that you can do to sort of cheese a flam tap. If you ever want to know what it feels like to play a flam tap in like a relaxed manner, I was watching a Vic Firth YouTube. It's the Vic Firth rudiment video for flam taps, and basically you basically play a slow shuffle where it's like da 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 da, and your hands, as you go faster, they start naturally flamming, and then it starts to turn into a flam tap. It's really hard to explain when you're not behind a drum.
Yeah.
No,
it's like,
I get that.
Yeah, and so if you ever want to feel what it's like to play a flam tap really fast, just pretend like you're playing a shuffle with your hands, where it's like right, left, right, left, right, and speed it up to the point where it actually begins to sound like a flam tap. And yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, but I don't know. It's just kind of a fun way to cheese that rudiment, and it's helped me out. So
cheese,
yes, more cheese.
I think
all
that's
the cheeses.
I think that's a perfect segue, actually. into sort of like the next section. So another thing we're going to be doing each podcast, everyone, is we're going to each present something we've either listened to, seen on YouTube, you know, just some drumming, you know, recorded at a gig when we're all allowed to go to gigs again, you know, and just sharing it with each other, something we found really cool or inspirational. Because I mean, there's so much media out there, and so many people sharing their playing. It's hard. I mean, I'll find myself doing sort of like the YouTube deep dive where I'll put on a video and oh, what's suggested next? And it's 4 hours later, and I've watched, you know, everyone from Johnny Rabb to Tony Richter Jr. and Thomas Lang, and then suddenly I found Jake sitting in his bedroom, who for some reason played the coolest lick ever. I'm like, I need to learn that. So
yeah, we're very lucky compared to like the old days, you know, with just what we can have at our fingertips. You know, with like speaking of shows, like you'd have to go see those guys live, you know, especially the cats who weren't on like the big acts, you know, like on the Tonight Show or whatever. You physically had to go see Tony Williams play, or, you know, all those guys, like, because they weren't on TV a lot, and, you know, they weren't busting out music DVDs and all that like they do now. So, yeah, we're definitely, man, we are very lucky to just go, you're just, you can see everything they've ever done. It's bonkers. I'm jealous of the young kids coming up nowadays with the playing. So who would like to go first?
Dan, you go first.
I can go first. Yeah. I picked Josh Freeze for me over the years, like with what I've done as a career and the kind of the path I've taken with my playing. It's been very rooted around the model of what he does. He's a very versatile player, but he's he can be complex if he needs to be, but he's like the guy to hold down a band or to make an album feel together. You know, his playing's very smart. He's very powerful. He's very relaxed. And I picked a video of him just playing with 9 Inch Nails. This was like circa 2007, 8, I think. But one of the things I've been working on is power while playing relaxed. And everyone, you know, I catch myself doing it a lot. You know, you start feeling the groove, your shoulders come up, you just, you know, we all do that curling in and just, like we start digging in and just letting emotion take over. And that it's a good thing to do, but in a high pressure, you know, a big gig or whatnot, you still need to be able to maintain a sense of being relaxed with that sense of power. So I always go to this video or from this tour with him playing, because 9 Inch Nails is one of the loudest rock bands I think of our time. I don't know if you've ever gone to see them, and the drums in that band are such a huge, you know, focal point for everything. You know, the beats that he's playing, they're very simple, I guess. You know, there's nothing crazy going on. You know, like, you know, a weird odd time signature, you know, it's just very solid, very tasty, percussive grooves that he's playing just like a boss. And I always would show this to students or people who are trying to step up their game, with just grooving and playing and having a more solid presence live. I say, you know, look to the guys who are doing these type of gigs, who are playing on the records that you like or that you listen to. You know, these are the guys that are really setting a precedence for a lot of drummers around the world, and they don't necessarily get the name in the headlights a lot, I guess. Josh plays with like pretty much everybody, so he's one of the bigger guys. But you know, I just think it's a neat video to watch. You know, when I watch it, I always just look at his snare arm. That's what I'm focusing on right now, is my snare, my backbeat, and staying relaxed, but just getting the most power that I can out of it without barely moving. And you watch him play, even it transcends all the way across. Like when he's playing fills, when he's crashing, it's just that left arm, that whole group of muscles, the fingers, wrists, everything is just so, it's like I'm trying to get it as good as my right hand.
Right
So
then.
I love to watch it and just watch like the little muscles that are moving, and you could just see he's breathing. You could just tell there's a sense of being relaxed, you know.
Right then. I shall play the clip.
This is the first day of my last day. Fill it up, don't take it apart. I'm the thrill hand, I'll fall down real far. Now needs me to stay. That's enough, I just threw it away. Nothing in God, I'm trusting you. Now there's something more fucked up I can do. Show me something real and show me something true. Show me something real in this world for you.
But okay, right. But yeah, no, I mean just from his playing there on the snare, like you say, that left arm just leading everything was.
Yeah.
But he looks as if he could do that while eating his lunch, sort of thing.
Yeah. I think like a lot of drummers focus on like they always put like their foot, that downbeat on one. That's always like our main focus. We always are like, bam, that's if I can hit that downbeat the best I can, everything else will be fine. And most of the drummers that are really good with their timing and like with a good groove focus on 2 and 4. That's where they live. You know, a downbeat's important to know where that is, but putting that 2 and 4 in that spot that's just going to make it feel right on time, a little behind, a little forward, a little rush. Like if you can control that backbeat, you can make or break a song, make or break a show. And he's like the master at just pop, pop. It's like, it's perfect. You know, his downbeats are good too, but he's just like, if I'm ever just like, man, I'm tensing up, like just, you know, I'm not feeling strong with my left hand, I'll watch that video or something from that tour. And I'm like, just gotta relax, shake it off, and just remember, keep your shoulders down, and just, you know, really focus on the placements of those backbeats.
It's one of those things, as soon as you watched him start, like as soon as you watched him play, you were immediately like, this dude knows like everything about what he's doing, and just like very commanding, very like, I love to see that. Like it's that confidence behind the kit that like true professionals have, and I love seeing that in a live performance. And that was just you know, immediately you could see that. It was really cool.
You can always tell what level a player is at when they sit down on a kit that they've never played before as well. You know, they're like, I'll sit down on a kit I've never played before and be all over the place. But you'll get, like you say, the big cats, they'll sit down and it could be the Hello Kitty little joke drum kit, and they will somehow make it sound good. They will still have that power, that precision, that playing that comes across. And it always, you know, I've been into so many music shops over the years, and you see everyone noodling around, etc., on all the kits, and there's been a couple of times I've seen someone who's just looking around and they've sat down and they've just played something straight because they're actually trying the kit. They're not there to do the musical show off.
Play Wipeout.
Yeah, you know what people are like in music shops. Is that someone comes in, like, I could play a Toccata and Fugue on a piano, or the drummer, like you say, Wipeout. But and I'm like, wow, you can play, you're commanding, you know this instrument, because, like you say, that precision and just command over it is incredible.
Yeah, so he's definitely someone to check out. If you don't know who he is, you've definitely heard him. Probably, I mean, he's played with everyone from Michael Bublé to Evanescence. You know, the record, Evanescence's first record, that was like a big breakout one for him. in the early 2000s. He played with the Vandals for years. He's playing with Sting, Weezer, Nine Inch Nails, Paramore. Like, he's on everything.
Yeah.
If you listen to music, you're listening to this guy. And he doesn't, he's not, like I said, the main spotlight kind of guy. But if you're looking into just really building a solid foundation, he's a great cat to research and listen to his works, his choices for fills and grooves, where he crashes, his pickup stuff, that he does in transitions. It's phenomenal, and he's what producers want to hear. If you're going to go out and try to get a gig, they're going to want to hear. He set a precedent for a lot of drummers in a good way. So do your research. He's good.
That was so good. I've never actually seen, I've heard of the name, but after seeing that video, I've never seen a video of him playing live. I'll definitely have to check out more, because that was a really, really cool video.
Same.
Yeah.
So, Alex, do you want to whack on your clip?
Sure. So a little bit of context of this clip. When I try to discover or figure out new ideas, one of my favorite things to do is, instead of listening to a whole song, there will be one particularly profound idea in the song that I will sort of latch onto and internalize and kind of develop that one single thought. So to sort of also tie this into the whole Twitch universe, this guy actually plays drums on Twitch. His name is Josh Manuel, and he plays drums for the band Issues.
I know Josh.
And
Yep.
yes, and he is a monster. One of my favorite things about Josh is that he takes very complex sounding things, but he does it with such little effort. And it's a very creative use of a lot of different sort of linear concepts. And this is no exception. So the context of this clip is they're playing live, and they're just coming out of a breakdown, and they're going to go into sort of this bass drum groove, and he's going to do this fill. The actual idea is just a split second in the actual video. And I'm going to try to go back and forth in between splitting the screen. But first, actually, I'm wondering, first of all, can you see the video?
Yeah.
We can.
Okay. And can you still hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Okay. And can you hear the drums?
Yes.
Okay. And you can hear me over the drums?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I just want to make sure that the chat I hope you guys can hear it too. But anyways, he's about to go into this breakdown, and I'm just going to let it play for a moment, and we'll go from there.
Are you guys ready for neck deep? Are you guys ready for Don Broco?
Right there, that fill that he just did, okay, which is, I'll replay it. It was that second sort of here to flam kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right here.
Are you guys ready for Don Broco?
Right there.
With the flams.
Yeah. It was so what he's doing right there is something that I found particularly profound. So that whole thing is,
And he's
from the way
pulling down
yeah,
from the tom. I find that really hard, but it sounds so good.
If you listen to it really closely, he's actually, part of that flam is his foot. So traditionally, I'll play it one more time. Right there, that second one right there before the Don Bracco comment. That right there is like the sauce. And so basically, sorry, did I switch there? I'm just
Good,
so,
don't worry.
uh-oh. We might have switched around on the actual thing. But anyways, so basically the idea there is he is doing a really fast 3-hit combo essentially between his foot and his two hands. And it comes off as this just really juicy flam that comes in on the offbeat, and it's just so funky. And I don't know, I would love to dig into it a ton, but basically that fill right there, as I tried to like deconstruct it and everything, I think it's just a very profound concept to be able to, use when I think of like using my hands and my feet in a drum fill. I grew up with like the Mike Portnoy style of using your hands and your feet to put out as many notes as humanly possible in an element of time.
Fours and twos, right?
Exactly, 4s and 2s. But what he's doing here is he's basically almost taking like a herta, which is like but he's splitting it, that first note, he's putting it on his foot. So it's like and it sounds so, when you speed that up, that first 3 hit that like if you speed it up to the point where he's doing it in that clip, it just sounds like this really just like really juicy flam, and it adds so much. Just that one small detail just adds so much to the entire fill, and the whole thing is just
there's like a finesse about it. It's very it's a very physical fill. Like to pull that off, you're just not like like you gotta be on top of it, but it's very, very good stuff. Travis Barker, he always kind of did that stuff with his feet too. Do you remember like on like old Blink records hearing like the like
yeah,
those quick
it's
little,
crazy.
I love
stuff.
Combining hands and feet is the key to sort of like that real next level of drumming, is being able to not think of the hands and feet as separate, and really combine them. It's something I find, the simple exercise of just going snare kick, snare kick, snare kick, snare kick, or floor tom kick, floor tom kick, floor tom kick, and you see loads of drummers doing like the all around the kit with that. 2s and 4s, 3s and 4s, 3s and 2s, 1s and ones, and it actually links into my clip of Benny Greb. That sort of combination and really making the instrument flow, rather than like you say, the Mike Portnoy thing is very much I'll play something on my hands, now I'll play something on my feet, instead of it all being one phrase. I love that level.
Yeah, Flewp, when you said you didn't want to pick it apart, but I'm like super dorky. Is he playing that like on the downbeat, or was that like a broken up herta? Like,
so the way that he's phrasing it is the bass drum is on the downbeat, which makes the snare come in on the upbeat. It's actually it's actually the It's not even. It's a 16th note offbeat, and it turns. It's so difficult to even clap along to that groove. It's almost like he morphs time there for just a split second. And I was gonna say, like in like a true nerd out fashion, one of the other things that's like really fascinating about this film is he basically, like, when you're playing a herta, okay, it's it's a 4-note phrase. So it starts with your right hand, and then it starts with your right hand again. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, and you're playing left hand lead, left, right. But usually drummers are really, really good at doing one of those. And when you put your foot into the mix, it's no longer a 4-note on your hand. So it's foot, hand, hand, hand. So there's only 3 notes, which causes you to land on a different note than what you started with.
Yeah.
So he is actually going into that next phrase. He's starting at left hand lead.
Yeah, he's got like cross coordination going.
Yeah, and so that is a whole nother part of this drum fill that has really changed my playing. Is like, man, this dude just threw down like this crazy flam on the of this measure. I think it was on the of 3, and then following it back in, coming in on the 1 on his left hand. And so now it's like, well, now I want to learn how to play things left hand lead, because I want to be able to be comfortable to be able to throw and totally just warp the entire measure there for a moment. It's a really I'll want me to play the video one more time.
Yeah, so I'm like dorky now about it.
Okay,
because you got to really know like note placement to start you know,
Yeah.
a lot of people could do it with like single, you know, like basic kind of rudiments, but you start throwing in, you know, hybrid stuff, you really got to know your note placement, you have a solid feel of, you know, subdivisions and just where you are in your timing and control. So it is impressive. It's very impressive.
All right. Let me rewind it a little bit here.
Are you guys ready for next team?
That snare is so poppy.
Right here.
Are you guys ready for Don Broco?
And then he has the flam.
Uh-huh.
That's
That
good.
last snare hit is so convincing, like it's on the downbeat, but it's not. It's actually on the of that groove. And so when he comes back in, hitting the snare back in on the 1, it's like, what in the world just happened? It's almost like we morphed into like, I don't know, like 13, 16 for a moment, and then right back into 4/4.
I also love how he ends it with the doodle-da-da-da-da. You know, he seals the end of the fill with those 2 snares, and that is tasty.
Yeah, I'll post the link in the Twitch chat too, because it's just it's a good one.
What I was going to say is, just looking at time, I'll probably leave my clip until next time. But for anybody listening on other platforms, we will be linking all of the videos and time stamps for what we've been talking about when you listen to those. So you'll be able to go back and look at what we've been showing each other.
We can do it, dude, if you want. I'm okay.
I would love to. I would love to if you want to.
Oh no, I've sadly have to, like I say, I'll do mine next time.
Okay.
Sounds good.
But don't worry, I think mine will spark a similar conversation. It's just for anybody who wants to look it up for going on for next time. It's Benny Greb's excerpt from his groovy drum solo, which was on his DVD. His first DVD is released, The Language of Drumming. And it's the section where he starts playing between his double bass drum, his hi-hat, where he's doing his foot switching from the hi-hat pedal to the double bass drum pedal. So he's dun 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 dun. Anyway, but yeah, next time we'll go into that. It's one of my favorite concepts.
I love Benny Greb. I remember when he was like starting to come up, and everyone was like, "Have you seen Benny Greb?" I'm like, "No, who's this guy? And then I don't know when it was, but I finally like saw a clip of him, and I'm like, "Oh snap! This guy is really, really good. He's fantastic. And he's a nice dude too."
But yeah, I think that brings us on to maybe sort of the final thing. I was going to say, seeing as I didn't get to share my clip and just looking at time, we are as well, another thing we're going to be talking about on all the podcasts is gear, because, you know, as drummers, we love our toys. So, I mean, I was going to talk a bit about my
dude. I forgot about that. You're keeping, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, don't worry. I got it all listed. I got all my notes. You know.
Nice. I love it.
But yeah, maybe if we'll talk about this and then we'll round it off, so we can.
Yeah, well, you go first. You go first, dude.
Yeah,
because you got your.
This is sort of like a small thing, but every drummer will know it. Is when you buy a bass drum pedal, an expensive bass drum pedal. You know, everyone starts out with sort of like the $80, 70 quid bass drum pedal sort of thing, and we all know the adjustments on the side for the spring. You know, the little screw that you have to like hold the spring down to screw it in to get it to the right tension and all of that. And I mean, I used to play, and you know, I still do on my practice kit, a Pearl Demon Drive, and I love the pedal. The fact it can switch from a long board to a short
You use a Demon
board.
Drive too, right, Flewp?
I use a Demon Drive, but it's chain driven. It's not direct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I love the direct drives, but that's not sort of like the thing. The reason I bought it was just because I played at a music shop and it felt amazing. But the issue was I really like my spring tension on both my pedals to feel the same. And I'm sure, you know, most drummers will know that sort of like struggle of back and forth constantly having to pull the pedal off the kick drum, etc. But I recently bought the DW machined double direct drive pedal, and I mean, aside from it being one of the prettiest pedals I've ever laid eyes on, the one
They're
amazing.
shiny, right?
They're so nice. Oh,
So shiny. I mean, it set me back about $1,000, but I have to say it's one of the best drumming purchases I've ever made because,
Yeah.
for example, to tighten the springs, there's a small little mechanism on the front where you just put a drum key in. The spring is in its own self-contained section, and you just turn the drum key back and forth. There's no, really having to break your fingers trying to screw or like I say, hold the spring down, etc. You just do that. It adjusts so easily. And I mean, it took me less than 10 minutes to find the perfect settings, where usually I would have been sort of like half an hour to an hour just trying to get the spring tensions correct. And I set it down, just drum key in both sides like that whilst playing, sort of like leant down, and boom, it was there. And I have to say, it was one of the most pleasurable experiences ever, just being able to sit down with a new piece of kit and play it, rather than, because sometimes I find, like, if I get, like when you get a new kit, you're like, oh, I want to play this, but then you start setting it up and it takes a while to set up, and your enthusiasm is still there, but sort of like drops off a little from that setup, because you just want to be playing it. But with that pedal, I never got that.
Yeah.
And then as well, the way they've got the direct drive set up, you can actually move the actuation and
cam.
yeah, the just everything from the beta angle to the actual direct drive arm angle, so it feels shorter. You can put the footboard up or down without having to mess with the beta angle. On some, obviously, you have to sort of like take the whole pedal apart to lower the foot plate, and I like my foot plate to go rather low when I've played onto it, just because of my foot technique. And again, I was able to get that almost within, like I say, 5-10 minutes of getting it down.
Nice.
Because I know you play Iron Cobras, don't you?
Yeah, I've used the same pedal since 2002. I mean, the thing with, like, I've definitely dabbled in all kinds of pedals and stuff over the years. I have a Pearl, I think a double eliminator. Yeah, I have 2 Iron Cobras. I have an old one, and then I have a new one from like probably 4 years ago, because with gigging, I just didn't want to keep tearing down my studio kit, so I got another set, and they're different, but I don't know, man. With my foot, the way I play, I'm more like a solid. I just want something that's gonna follow my foot. Really, spring tension, I've never changed the springs on my Iron Cobra. They're probably shot to all heck. But I had a teacher a long time ago that said, if you want a really cool exercise to really check on like your bass drum kind of feel and where you are, take the spring completely off. Just like unhook the spring from the latch, put your heel down, and rest the beater on your foot. So, your heel's up, you should be relaxed, and you should be able to flick the beater off the drum head and back onto your foot. Just blap, blap. And you should be able to do that, just consistently and control it.
Like a stick going down onto a snare drum.
Yeah. And I guess like for me, it was that was a big wake up call, and how much I relied on the pedal and like the return action. So I've thought about I've looked at recently the Jojo Mayer pedal. Have you seen that from Sonar?
The Sonar, the one that collapses down.
Yeah, it's just like a super like old, like from the 30s, and like it's that old school design, and there's a very basic setup. Everyone that I talk to that kind of likes that style, they're all like, man, the new pedals are really cool, but they just don't utilize them like you probably are doing, like more intricate stuff. But for me, I want like a pedal that's gonna follow what I'm doing with my foot very naturally. So I have been curious about that one, but I don't know, my Iron Cobra it's not broke. And it's just, I'm like, I've never felt like my pedal isn't doing what I want it to do. I guess I haven't, I've always been curious, like, well, what if I did get, because we were talking Demon Drive stuff, Flewp at one point, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd like notice a big difference just as a player, or if it would improve anything for me, you know. But
well, I have different pedals depending on what I really want to play. So sort of like the DW is brilliant because for that I can actually you can there's actually a place to mark lines. Because there's a little line section you can have in line with the spring tensions. So I can almost have saved settings, because when I'm playing more groovy stuff, I don't like to have a high spring tension. Like you say, that feel of it just being solid and there. But obviously when I'm playing the double bass style stuff, you know, Bleed by My Sugar, Hey Ho, you know, that sort of like Herter stuff, I want that return. And that feel that the pedal is just going to come back to me, so I can don't have to put in as much effort to be able to play what I need to. But I actually have 6 pedals that I own. I've got the DW, which is like my main pedal now, the Demon Drive, which I used to practice, but I have a really old Stag pedal, which was like my first
Stag.
First ever kick drum pedal, and it's flimsy as all hell, but playing it was, I still play it when I take it, like when I used to take my drum kit busking, I'd take that because I knew I wasn't worried about destroying it, scratching it, you know, that sort of stuff. But also I just got this really nice feel from playing it. So yeah, I usually go on dependent on if it's the type of music or how I'm feeling. You know?
I'm in between you guys where I have two pedals that I have a bass model. It's a Yamaha something or other drum pedal. I just got it on sale, musician's friend, way back in the day, just because I wanted to have 2 pedals, and that was the cheapest one that they had. And then I upgraded to the Demon Drives in 2013, and the big difference when I went to go like Guitar Center to try them out, direct drives to me, they have such a different feel to them, and I was so used to chains. I was so used to having that, like, there's just a different drummers, you know, that there's just that different feel where but yeah, and so I wanted to have a pedal that was fast but still had that feel, and that's why I ultimately ended up staying with the chains, but going with a more, it's definitely a smoother action, but there's still they still have that feel that you get with chains, where the give and that just ever so slight lag that where you which is what the direct drive tries to eliminate. Like, I just live off of that. Like, it's just what it is for me.
That was
both.
The chain Demon Drive, that was like the closest thing. Like, if you guys ever played a 9000, like a DW 9000, like that was like that to me. It felt like that, and I was like, oh wow, snap! Like it was very rare to find something that felt that good. You know, like an Iron Cobra is like, just like, I'm not a double bass player. Like, I don't even have it on the kit right now. You know, like, I'm just a single pedal. Most of the 99% of the stuff that I play or record for, I'm not using a double pedal. So like when I was playing in metal bands in the early 2000s, you know, we'd share drum kits or on tour or whatever. It's like, oh, dude, just use my pedal. Or, you know, I'm like, I'm lazy, I don't want to go get it. So I'd play on like 9000. Like, wow, these are really nice. Like, they feel good. But you know, I could do the same stuff on my Iron Cobras. It was never like, I need this to play. Yeah. But the chain Demon Drives, they felt really solid when I played on them before. But they're a very, very nice pedal.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at time again, and I think we're about at the hour. So I think what we'll do now is we'll just wrap up the recording, and we're gonna go and answer a couple of quick questions from Twitch chat and things. But to anybody listening to the podcast on any other mediums aside from Twitch, thank you for listening in. We're going to be doing a lot more of these, and I think it's gone really well. I've had a great time chatting with you.
This has been amazing. I've really enjoyed myself.
But yeah,
we get like my nerd glasses next time.
But yeah, we're going to be doing a lot more. Again, we're going to keep to the sort of structure that we've had. Maybe add a couple of other things, possibly some guests in the future. But yeah, like I say, we'll be linking our Twitch channels and various videos and also gear links, the stuff we've talked about, information with the podcast when they go out. So if you are wondering where to find those, they will be figuratively wherever it will be below. But yeah, thank you again, gents. I'm gonna hit the end record button and see you next time.
Until next time.
Bye.